Every dawn, Walter White mirrors yesterday, bland coffee, silent wife Skylar, teen son Walter Jr., then teens who ignore his chemistry, then soap and shame at the car wash until collapse cracks the loop. Cold doctors recite terminal lung cancer like a DMV voicemail. Ringing ears count the days he has left to provide for a family, now staring at zero. So he rides shotgun with his DEA brother-in-law, hunting the very empire that might still save them. Hank raids a meth lab. Walter watches, transfixed, spots Jesse Pinkman slipping out the window, and in that instant sees not a fugitive, but a partner. He hunts Jesse down, coldly offers a pact, cook crystal meth together, or face DEA betrayal. Jesse's laughter dies. Refusal means prison, agreement means survival, and a chemist who can perfect the product. Within days, they trade cash for a battered RV, drive into the white desert silence, and step inside. Jesse's first batch isn't blue yet, but perfection already lingers. When he tries to sell it, street dealer Ello spots Walter from the DEA bust, and tension detonates. Thugs snatch the pair, ready for old-school violence, but the meek teacher vanishes. Walter rigs a lethal gas, slaughters the captors, and strides out of the desert splattered in blood. In that moment, Walter White dies and Heisenberg rises while Jesse stares at the carnage they have unleashed. The RV dies. Jesse wants to bolt and forget everything, but Walter has already clicked into cold cleanup mode, erasing every trace while Jesse melts down in panic. Next morning, Walter glides home, sits at breakfast with Skylar and Walter Jr., chatting like a spotless dad until the phone rings. Guess what? He's still alive. Walter stays ice cool, lectures on mirror image molecules that act different, a sly confession of his own split, while Jesse walks into his house and discovers a brand new nightmare already waiting. Crazy 8 vanishes from the basement, the supposedly unconscious captive now lurching along the street like a revenant until Walt hauls him back. Jesse screams for a quick bullet. Walt wavers, realizing this kill would be deliberate choice, not accident. While the prisoner breathes below, the duo face Emelo's corpse. Chemist Walt decrees hydrochloric acid. No graves, no flames, just chemistry. They split duties. Walt mines Crazy 8. Jesse the dissolution. Walt stresses acid only in special plastic. Jesse dumps Emilio's acid into the tub, expecting it to dissolve the body. Instead, the acid eats through porcelain and plaster, dropping blood-choked sludge through the ceiling and coating the entire bathroom in gore. Just as Skylar, sniffing Walt's lies, corners Jesse like an angry parent. "Keep seeing Walter," she hisses, and the DEA hears everything. Jesse hears a bigger crash. Walt storms in, stares at the dripping carnage, and snarls about the cheap plastic bin they needed while miles away. Skylar's breezy chat with Skylar's dread grows as her sister's paranoia feels less absurd by the hour. Down in Jesse's basement, Crazy 8, chained but razor-sharp, feeds Walter scraps of personal intel, weaving a fragile humanity to survive. While Jesse coldly reminds Walt, the coin toss is done. This kill is Walt's burden alone. Simultaneously, Hank drags Walter Jr. through a shattered neighborhood lined with twitching addicts, pointing at each hollow face and hammering home the brutal destination of every high. Hank drags a wrecked hooker before Jr., swearing the boy will never rot like she did. Downstairs, Walt fingers the padlock, resolved to free the captive until a single shard of plate betrays the trap. Crazy 8 was never bargaining, only baiting the instant to kill. Steel links whistle, crush breath, life ends, miles away. Hank traces the 99.1% pure meth back to a vanished genius cook and senses a new kingpin rising. At the White House barbecue, Skylar corners Walter, who quietly confesses, "Lung cancer?" silencing every fork while Marie trembles and Hank's joke dies in midair. Across town, Jesse, stripped of Walter's aura, can't move his own product, slinks home seeking refuge, and is dumped on the curb when his parents discover weed, his little brother's, not his, sealing the door against. Skylar lands a coveted slot with a star oncologist, then hears the price. 90 grand. Walter freezes, muttering that the cost could crush his family, yet hiding a darker math. Tension coils as Skylar begs him to battle, but Walter, stone cold, rejects emotion and stalks away. In a baffling blaze, he jams a gas-soaked sponge into a stranger's luxury ride and flicks the lighter, proving this fight is no longer about cash or reason. It is personal. The old Walter is already dead. Meanwhile, Jesse, vowing to quit slinging, strides into interviews. Walter once ran his own empire. Now he drags through Elliot's glittering birthday, choking on the wealth he forfeited. Elliot offers a cushy gray matter job and cancer cash. Walt's pride roars louder than his tumor, and he refuses, choosing humiliation over charity. Same night, Jesse collides with equally adrift Badger. They rant over burnt dreams and crawl back to the only skill they trust: cooking meth. Jesse's solo meth is trash, making him see he needs Walter, while Skylar's tearful intervention pushes Walter to fake surrender. Junior's coward slap seals it. Yet Walter secretly rejects Elliot's cash, choosing to bankroll his cancer by cooking, then strides back to Jesse with one calm invitation: "Let's cook." Jesse bows. Walter dictates chemistry. Jesse handles sales. Skylar buys Walter's lie that Elliot's check is deposited. Yet the lie is already rotting the floor beneath them. At school, Chemo's fist slams Walter into the bathroom tiles, where Hugo the janitor revives him amid chemical lecture echoes. Jesse, spotting the radiation scars, finally clocks the cancer and the ticking clock behind Walter's eyes. Hank's hunt for a lab mask drags him to Walt's chemistry stockroom, but Walt stays ice cold, deflects, and Hank leaves empty-handed. Same day, Jesse struts into Tuco's den with a kilo expecting riches. Tuco snatches the dope and pounds him into a hospital bed. Suddenly, Walt has no partner, no stash, no cash, so he raises the last traces of Walter White, strides bald into Tuco's lair, and slams down his terms: 50 grand, 35 for the stolen meth, no negotiation, no fear. Heisenberg speaks, and the underworld listens. Tuco's laughing at the 105,000 price for Jesse's beating, until Walt unleashes mercury fulminate. The blast shreds the hideout, and Tuco now sees the quiet teacher as stone-cold Heisenberg, cutting a deal, paying cash, and granting lethal respect. Walter scrubs the bathroom like it's a crime scene, haunted by the ghosts in his bedroom, while Jesse, still bleeding from yesterday, learns Walter already promised Tuco 2 pounds a week. Walt's science swagger hypnotizes the kingpin in toe di. But 300 cold pill boxes vanish before the first cook, so Walt pivots to methylamine, whispering, bigger, purer, borderline legal. And now they must swipe a drum of DEA-watched chemical before sunrise. At her baby shower, Marie gifts Skylar a dazzling tiara. Then, Skylar learns it's hot merchandise and barely dodges arrest. While she fumes, Walt and Jesse burn through a warehouse lock with thermite to swipe a barrel of methylamine, escaping spotless and emboldened. Skylar corners Marie, who feigns total innocence. Then Walt and Jesse cook their first batch the new way. Suddenly the meth emerges bright cobalt, an accidental brand that stuns even Tuco, until, without a whisper of warning, After Tuco brutally beats his own man, Walter and Jesse realize they've partnered with a psychopath, not a businessman. Congratulations, Walt. Your distributor is a lunatic. Walt returns home, hollow, cold, distant. Skylar probes. He snarls, and for the first time, she fears the man she married. Jesse, replaying the blood spray nightmare, knows Tuco could kill them on a whim. His only plan, vanish, while Walt, now more at poison from castor beans, is cooked into the meth bound for Tuco, Walter, and Jesse's silent assassination bid ticking, while Hank pores over heist footage, spots the thieves' chemical flare, yet amateur moves, and closes in. Before the dose can land, Tuco strikes. Jesse bursts into Walter's home pale. Held hostage by the unhinged Tuco, Walter and Jesse face a grim fate as Tuco drags them toward Mexico to enslave them as meth-cooking chemists, while Hank, certain Tuco has fled south, suddenly learns Walter is missing and must hunt both the dealer and his vanished brother-in-law. The captive's only hope is to outwit Tuco and his eerie bell-ringing Uncle Hector before the desert swallows them forever. Walter and Jesse try to slip ricin into Tuco's lunch, but the silent, life-ruining Hector senses the trap and slams his bell like a demonic fire alarm. Tuco snaps, corners Walter, and hears the raw confession the poison was meant for him because he's insane, degenerate, filth who deserves death. Tuco erupts into a punch-first frenzy until Jesse seizes the gun and shoots him, leaving Tuco bloodied and staggering. As they scramble to escape, a car arrives. More danger? Hank tails Jesse, unaware Walter is involved. Tuco, already shot, lunges and Hank drops him with one clean shot, ending the monster's reign. Days later, Jesse storms a meth-ruined house to grab his stolen cash, but the sight of a tiny kid, forgotten in the corner like broken furniture, jolts him, yet he pushes on. Walter sidesteps confession and weaponizes every old wound against Skylar. Then Jesse faces Spooge to reclaim the cash. Spooge's girlfriend explodes and crushes his skull with an ATM. Jesse, frozen yet rescues the silent boy, leaving him on the porch for a kind stranger, while Walter tells Skylar the Schwartzes are suddenly bankrupt, and Badger lumbers straight into an unmistakable trap. Badger's laughable. Are you a cop? Stunt flops. The instant undercover cops cuff him, turning Walt and Jesse into frantic wrecks, terrified their names will leak. Salvation seems to arrive via Saul Goodman, the tacky late-night ad lawyer, yet Walt's clumsy bribe attempt crashes. So the duo, out of plans, do the only logical thing left. They bag Saul, toss him in the van, and speed into the night. While gun barrels still tremble in Saul's unflustered face, he flips the stick up into a business pitch. These jittery amateurs need a pro to swallow their charges, so he summons Jimmy, a human get-out-of-jail card, who gladly lets himself be cuffed for cash. Walter balks, yet the swap must unfold under Hank's nose in DEA territory, where any misstep would chain Heisenberg to a cell. Smooth talker, Saul offers Walt a legit-sounding partnership. Launder the cash, shrink the risk, grow the empire. Walt's hooked on the vision. Days later, bam, Skylar's in labor. Walt races, arrives too late. Baby Holly's here, and Ted Benicki, the flirtatious boss, is already hovering. Same night, Jesse storms into his empty house, every gram stolen. Panic, dial Walt, no answer. While Jesse melts down over the missing cash, Walter, the thief he trusts, pockets the $1.2 million deal, then calmly withholds Jesse's $480,000 share, claiming it would just buy drugs. At home, clueless Walt Jr. launches SaveWalterWhite.com to pay the cancer bills, leaving Walter choking on the irony of swimming in secret cash while playing broke. A dying chemistry, teacher's sons, charity site becomes Soul's perfect laundry line for Walt's drug fortune, while Jesse and Jane plot New Zealand escape. But Jane's discovery that Walt still holds Jess's cash sparks a phone ambush. Skylar passes the call, and Jane coldly blackmails Walt. Hand over every cent, or she torches his secret. Walt stares at the ultimatum, then hours later pours a drink beside a stranger in a bar. Walter invades Jesse's apartment and discovers both him and Jane unconscious from heroin. Jane suddenly vomits and chokes. Walter deliberately lets her die. Jesse awakens to find her corpse and shatters in grief, then phones Walter, whose calm lies begin. Jesse dials Saul. The instant Jane dies, Mike glides in, wipes every trace, whispers she never woke up, and vanishes. While Walt Jr. cheers as the Save Walter White fund rockets sky high, Skylar's gut screams lie. And at the door, Jane's father already sees the sheet-covered body that will break him. A father watches medics wheel away his daughter while answering their questions in shock, the grief already anchoring itself deep. At the DEA, Hank studies the sudden geographic leap of blue meth, realizing Heisenberg escaped their net and metastasized. Yet still unaware, the predator shares his dinner table across town. Walter corners a shattered Jesse, who gasps through tears that he killed Jane. And Walter, who let her choke, lets the lie stand, sealing the confession in silence. Jesse hauls the broken man from the wreckage, sealing a toxic bond while Skylar back home untangles Walter's lies. No mother visits, no Gretchen money, just a husband who weaponizes victimhood. When his evasions outrun her questions, she seizes baby Holly and bolts, certain one more lie is already warming up. And at that instant, Donald Margulis, grieving father, returns too soon to the control tower, his mind shattered, his eyes on a radar that can't bring back the dead. Albuquerque still smolders from the mid-air collision that killed 167 people, a catastrophe born from air traffic controller Donald Margulis's grief over his daughter Jane. Yet, this horror is only the expanding blast wave of Walter White's choices. As flaming wreckage drifts down, Walt steps outside to watch the sky burn, while Skylar walks out on him, declaring she has taken the children and will keep them far from his shadow, deflecting her lawyer's probing questions about the money, because her sole mission is surgically removing Walt from their lives. Walt's life is unraveling fast as Hank closes in and Walt finally confesses to Skylar that he's been cooking meth, blowing their marriage apart. Skylar now sees him as a threat, and divorce becomes her only way out. Gus offers Walt $3 million for 3 months of work, but Walt refuses, claiming he needs to fix his family first. Crime boss Gus Fring launders cartel cash through his Los Polos Hermanos chain, while Jesse, fresh from brutal self-audit, vows to stop fleeing his nature. Across town, Skylar lingers in Ted's warm house, hearing his soft offer to leave a toothbrush. No key, just promise. Then Jesse storms Walt's classroom, snarling that his partner is shorting him. Walt snarls back that Jesse is stealing his cook, and the cash on the table becomes a match over an iceberg of deeper betrayal. Walt demands credit as the mastermind, while Jesse refuses to be sidelined, just as Hank squeezes Combo's mom and hears Jesse's name on the RV title. Suddenly, the rolling meth lab has an owner and the hunt is on. Miles away, Gus Fring slides a devil's card across the table. $3 million, 3 months. 3 months. A hidden fortress lab. No names, no witnesses. Walt hesitates. Morality flickers, ambition roars. He whispers, no, then circles back, because power always pulls harder than. Jesse accepts the offer. In that instant, Walt coldly dissolves the partnership. A cop's routine day twists into horror when Miss Piwa's decaying corpse greets him. Then a silent stranger materializes, stare down thick with gunshot tension. While Skylar buckles under cash-stuffed guilt, Walter swears the money will rescue them all. Across town, Jesse sparks ignition inside his jerry-rigged meth shack, crude flames of freedom licking the air as business begins to roar. Junior feels the chill of his dad's sudden, hollow affection, while Hank, electrified, races to Jesse's RV, the rolling meth lab hidden in a junkyard, warrant in his mind and victory in his breath. But the owner bars the door yelling, "Residents, Walt and Jesse trapped inside," until Saul's phone erupts with news that Marie is broken in an accident. Hank's heart slams, he abandons the bust, sprints away, and the RV, the secret, the whole empire, rolls free. Hank's pride implodes when he learns he's been duped. His one clean shot at Jesse, now ash at the junkyard. Walt and Jesse watch the RV burn, erasing the last proof. Jesse's life already skidding toward arrest. Before cuffs can click, Hank storms in, fists first, roaring questions about his wife, while Jesse crumples under a savage lesson in police brutality, left bloodied and wordless on the filthy floor. Hank crosses every ethical line. A man shattering under his own trauma. Jesse, shattered and hollow, recoils when Walt's practiced pity lands like salt on raw nerves. The instant Jesse pins every shard of betrayal on the man he once called teacher, grief ignites into cold, focused vengeance. Walt and Saul scramble to smother the fuse, while Hank staggers home to Marie, unloads years of buried horrors from Tuco to El Paso, and quietly ends his badge. Walt seizes the moment, phones Gus, demands Jesse replace Gale, then visits Jesse with cash and a pitch for a new partnership. Jesse detonates, rips Walt open, names every wound, sees the monster inside the mentor. Yet midnight finds him crawling back, the lethal Walt's reborn, while Hank Scheider broods in his car. A stranger hisses that 2 assassins are en route. Hank scoffs, hangs up, steps onto the tarmac, and the shadows of the Salamanca twins rise to meet him. Hank appears calm until gunfire erupts. Survival instinct kicks in. He guns the engine, runs one twin down, wounded, cornered, grabs the second twin's gun, fires, escapes alive but bleeding. Jesse watches the street, deals flash, lives tossed, guilt now crushing him, kids treated like pawns. The sister says the shooter was just a kid. Thomas. Grief twists Jesse into hate. He begs Walter for a silent poison to kill the dealers. Walt refuses, warns him touching them, means war with Gus. Tension spikes. Walter meets Gus and Mike. They brand Jesse a liability, undeterred. Jesse arms for a suicide run to avenge Thomas. Suddenly Walter's car rockets in, smashing both dealers' one corpse ragdolls to asphalt. A bleeding man crawls. Walters ends him with one cold shot. Jesse freezes. War is declared. Gus no longer trusts Walter. The cartel stirs, power tilts, and Walter sees every lesson Gale masters as another shovel of dirt on his own grave. Mike, cradling Kaylee, soaks up one fragile instant of calm before dragging Chow back in line at the warehouse where hesitation means death. Gale, home, alone, opens his door to Gus, polite words hiding a blade. Gus calmly warns Gale. Oh, he must soon run the lab alone. Gale wavers, asks for more sessions with Walter, and the words ignite terror in Walter, who now knows Gus is preparing to replace him. So he races to Jesse and coldly declares, Gale has to die. But Jesse recoils, refusing to kill, even begging Walter to go to the cops. Yet Walter snarls that if Gale lives, they are both obsolete and therefore dead, forcing Jesse to find Gale's address and hand it over, only for Victor to burst in, haul Walter. Jesse raises the gun. Gale pleads. Money, words, nothing works, bang! A single shot cuts the night. Gale falls, silence. Black screen. New season. Gus flaunts power by slashing Victor's throat in front of Walt and Jesse. Blood everywhere. Saul Goodman greets Skyler with slick lawyer conspiracy chatter, warning the reluctant woman the train has left the station. Across town, Jesse stares blank, gaming and cruising junk food nights away. Hank, body broken, nurses minerals, while Marie begs him back from Gale's ghost in the lab. Walt and Jesse cook, pretending normal. Walt knowing survival this time is only a temporary reprieve. The illusion of control is gone. Safety nets vanished, replaced by a lethal game where one misstep equals death. Gus Fring, immaculate in suit and ice-cold calm, strides in to face Hector Salamanca. Once feared, now wheelchair, bound, mute, motionless yet burning with hate. Gus plants himself inches away, forcing Hector to relive every defeat, every humiliation, savoring the silent confirmation that while breath lingers, the war ended long ago, and Hector lost. Hank corners Walt with a bombshell. He's hunting Gus Fring, the curly fry kingpin he swears is a drug lord, and he needs Walt to plant a tracker on Gus's car. Walt panics, stalls. Every heartbeat, a neon sign screaming guilt. They met casually for charity, nothing shady, yet Agent Hank senses hidden danger while the others nod along. The story snaps back to Mexico, where a younger Gus and smooth-talking Max Araniva pitch Donadio their ultra-pure crystal meth, promising cartel gold. Frozen in a childhood memory where all he can do is watch, Gus Fring is forged. Now he returns to Hector and makes the old man relive that same helpless horror in vivid, vicious detail, the power finally reversed. Later, the lethal chess duel between Walter and Gus narrows to one last move, every choice a coin toss between living and dying, while Jesse, cornered by detectives, keeps his cool as Brock lingers poisoned in the hospital and suspicion tightens like a noose. While Jesse reels from the poisoned boy, Walt plays his last card. He wheels into Casa Tranquila and offers wheelchair-bound family-less. Hector Salamanca, the chance to detonate revenge on Gus. Hector's silent glare seals the pact, so he shocks the DEA by demanding a face-to-face with Hank, baiting Gus to come kill him himself. In a drab DEA room, Hector childishly insults the agents. To Gus Fring, the taunt screams trap, so he drives to the nursing home flanked by 2 guards, expecting to gloat at the broken old man whose bell once ruled the cartel. Gus leans in, spitting that Hector is already a corpse, but Hector lifts his eyes, steel meeting steel, and rings that tiny bell. Walter's bomb detonates. Fire obliterates the room. Half of Gus Fring's face is blown away. He steps into the hallway, straightens his tie, then drops dead, and the empire built on precision implodes in a heartbeat. Walt and Jesse slip back into the secret lab and torch every beaker, every fingerprint, every secret, letting the fire swallow Gus's kingdom whole. Yet Jesse's new truth, that Brock survived Lily of the Valley, not Ricin, slides past him unnoticed. He never sees that Walt weaponized a child to win. While embers still whirl, Skylar phones, breathless. Time has passed, yet something feels wrong. Walter White, now a hollow-eyed ghost, sits alone under a fake name, accepts a stranger's key, and lifts an M60 from a trunk. Flashback, the game is still on. The lab must vanish, but every secret moment was filmed and that drive sits caged inside DEA evidence. One shot left. Walt, Jesse, and Mike roll a truckload of super magnets to the precinct wall, park, and wait for the pull that will erase their past in one silent, impossible tug. From the curb, Walt's remote pulse fries the precinct's computers untouched. Mike scoffs. Walt snarls. Worked because he said so, and the last shred of Walter White dies. Heisenberg stands. Skylar watches, terrified, as pride, not survival, glows in his eyes. When even Saul begs exit, she sees the abyss. Walt's tearful confession to Hank is just another calculated move, while Lydia's panic sweat signals the Empire's next tremor. Face to face with Mike, Jesse, and Walter as silent judges, Lydia's trembling hands dial Hank. She claims a DEA tracker clings to a methylamine barrel, praying the lie buys her breath. Hank finds nothing, ends the call, leaves Lydia alive but desperate. To lock her worth, she pitches the unthinkable, a train robbery in a radio dead zone where no signal can scream. Walter shrugs off danger. One more time, Skylar vows to shield her family, and the quartet, Walt, Jesse, Mike, Todd, blueprint the perfect heist, derail a freight train with a fake breakdown, stealth swap the methylamine for water, vanish like ghosts. Desert silence, iron horse roaring on cue, the truck stalls across the rails, engineers wander. Jesse and Todd siphon the gleaming blue treasure under Mike's eagle eye. Seconds razor thin when a kindly stranger rolls up offering help. An unscripted kink, train wheels lurch sooner than the moment Todd scrambles clear and the dust settles. A lone kid on a dirt bike emerges from the haze, curious, unafraid, only for Todd to coldly shoot him dead, leaving Jesse frozen in the desert silence as three vehicles converge. Walter, Jesse, and Mike on one side, Dean and his crew on the other. What was meant to be a simple methylamine deal collapses when Walt reveals his true aim, not cash, but conquest, demanding Dean shut down and push Walt's product instead. Because Walt seizes control of a tense dealer meeting, his icy authority forcing Dean to fold and sealing the deal. Mike seizes the moment to demand his $5 million and quit the game, warning Walt that DEA bugs threaten to topple everything. Jesse, shattered by guilt, begs for his share and a clean escape, but Walt manipulates him into staying. Saul Goodman needs his go bag, cash, passport, new ID. He's ready to vanish, but can't retrieve it himself. Walt volunteers, meets Mike by the river, demands the names of the 9 imprisoned men who could tie him to Gus. Mike refuses. Walt's rage erupts. He fires. Mike staggers to the water's edge, gazes at the river, breathes a last moment of peace. Lydia corners a silent Walt with Mike's 9 names, the final threads tying him to Fring's empire, but her survival hinges on whether he erases her next. She pivots fast. Heisenberg's blue already rules Albuquerque, yet the Czech Republic, 5% addicted and desperate, waits for a supplier, its pipelines primed. Walt's eyes widen as ambition leaps borders. While he weighs world domination, Jack Welker's death squad strikes every prison, erasing Mike's crew in under 2 minutes. Walt's prison hit list wipes out every potential snitch, stabbed, strangled, no one spared. Before the alarms even sound, silence bought at the DEA. Hank, frozen, knows the strings were pulled but can't prove a thing. Later, Skylar drives Walt to a storage unit where a mountain of cash, more than they could spend in 10 lifetimes, greets them. She's given up counting. She just begs him to stop, to walk away while he still can. And for a second, Walt actually considers it. While Walt quietly decides his empire is finished, Jesse struggles to act normal until Walt's car glides up, freezes the night, and deposits a fat duffel of unexplained cash at his feet, leaving Jesse stunned. The same evening, Walt, Hank, Marie, and Skylar dine like a postcard family until Walt calmly says he is out, letting Skylar feel a fragile spark of hope. Then Hank lingers in the bathroom, flipping through a book left on the toilet tank, just killing time. Nothing serious until his eyes land on a handwritten note. Gail Bacher's voice echoes in his head. The puzzle pieces start snapping into place, every ignored hunch, every time he looked at Walt and saw a mild-mannered chemist history teacher. 1 second later, Walter White watches, helpless as Jack Welker puts a bullet in Hank Schur's head, cold, brutal, and in the middle of the desert. All of Walt's choices come crashing down in that moment. But the neo-Nazi gang couldn't care less. They loot his... Jesse is dragged away to cook meth as a slave. Walt returns home, but Skylar pieces together Hank's death. The knife comes out. Flynn shields her and turns on his father. Ollie's lights flash. Walt snatches baby Holly and flees. Her crying cracks his armor. He leaves her to be found safe, then calls Skylar with icy fury, every poisonous word. A staged shield to exonerate her as the cops listen. Walter White vanishes into the snow, then glides back into Albuquerque, a silent ghost with one last mission. He slips into the Schwartz mansion where Gretchen and Elliot, the old partners who stole his future, freeze at the sight of him. He does not want revenge. He wants a promise. When Flynn turns 18, they will deliver $9.72 million untouched dollars. To seal the deal, he conjures 2 invisible hitmen who will shadow them forever. Frozen, Walt whispers to Skylar not to flinch while feds lurk outside. In her gutted apartment, he finally confesses he cooked meth for pride, not family. Then slips her GPS to Hank and Gomez's grave as a parting gift, steals a last look at baby Holly, glimpses angry Flynn through the window, and vanishes toward Jack's compound to reclaim his stolen fortune and free enslaved Jesse. A wrecked Walt triggers a hidden trunk gun that rips Jack's crew apart in seconds. Then Jesse strangles Todd with his chain. Jack begs Walter for life, but a single shot ends him. Walter slides Jesse the pistol. Jesse lifts. It sees the man who destroyed him and lowers the weapon, refusing to obey ever again. Jesse floors the stolen car, laughing, crying, screaming freedom, while Walter, alone in the lab, presses trembling fingers to the equipment that once made him feel alive, bleeds through his shirt, collapses, and dies. The empire of Heisenberg dies with him as Jesse races into the night. Past finally behind